it wasn't easy coming by that. I remember when I first graduated, I graduated in the mid-80s when the economy was undergoing a downturn, and it was really difficult to get jobs. Many of my friends got jobs though ahead of me, and I think I was one of the last few to get a job. At that point in time also, the salary that was offered to me was not very high. I didn't get a job at my first interview. I had to go for many interviews. It was very scary going for interviews, and with each rejection, I felt more and more afraid that I would not be able to ever get a job as a lawyer. And I knew that part of the reason had to do with the fact that I had a disability, because most times when people recruit young lawyers, they look for, well, at least in my time, they were looking for people who could go to court as well as part of the job scope. So that being the case, it really was difficult for me to get a job. No, but I think what has changed for me is that over the years my perceptions have changed, and my goals, my expectations have changed. I think it's no longer about how successful a person is in the person's practice, and no longer about how much more I'm earning than my peers, or how much less I'm earning compared with my friends. But it's about what I feel my calling is, and whether I have been able to do what I have been called to do. And I think over the years, what I would like to think is that although from time to time I do lapse and I get lazy and ill-disciplined and all that, but from time to time I would like to remind myself that I owe it to many people to do a good job of whatever has been given to me, whether it is at work, or whether it is in my social service, or whether in church. That I owe it to God, I owe it to my parents, I owe it to my bosses, to the people, to our clients at SPD, people around me. That I hope that whatever has been given to me, I just do my best. And I think to me that's what matters a lot more. I have always shared that I started as a very unwilling volunteer, because when I was growing up, I grew up, I spent 10 years of my school life at Padiva MGS, and then I went to Catholic Junior College, and then I went to law school. All through, I had people who were very supportive, teachers and principals, and then my parents and grandparents, grandmothers loved me very much, and then I had sibling support and all that. So as far as I was concerned, I grew up in a very normal way, and so I finished university, and then I started working, and I always thought that if I were to grow up this way, everybody else could grow up the same way too. And so I never wanted to volunteer, and I had this very skewed view of charities, that they were inward-looking, they only organized excursions, and they were only interested in talking about their own problems. So I didn't want to be involved at all. But I had to be, because people said, hey, why don't you come in, and why don't you give legal advice, and so on and so forth. That was how I started. And so I started with the Prison Welfare Service, and then went on to just help one or two other corporate charities incorporate as companies limited by guarantee. Then I went on to SPD. So when I went to SPD also, it was on that basis. And my first year sitting at the board meetings, I was completely lost. I didn't know what they were talking about. They were throwing about all kinds of social service terms. And as far as I was concerned, didn't understand. So after 1 year, I said, look, no point. Why don't I just give legal advice where I can? Then part two, was then when I was asked again to come back to the board. And this time round, I was able to understand a little bit more about what's being done. And I saw that actually I had been wrong on this time. That I had been so blessed that I grew up thinking everybody would grow up the same way. But that actually there were many other people out there who have that potential if only they had the same opportunity. And that was something that made quite an impact on me, to know that there is something that we can do for people with disabilities.